mentioned Albert Ojwang, and the way somebody can go into parliament and say, "Oh, people die everywhere." Do you think, from the perspective of our leaders, could it also be sort of intentional for them to trigger public rage? Because what purpose does it serve to say stuff like that when you are living in a very tense sort of political environment, especially for the people? Is that like rage that they're doing it intentionally to trigger people, or what would be the purpose, honestly?
So if people are against something, so you should always come out and speak against it. It doesn't matter where you're coming from. If you are a member of maybe the government, you always have to come and speak out what the government likes you to speak. You're not allowed to speak your mind freely. It's so dangerous that people don't really speak what the representative want, what their constituency wants to hear, or what their constituency wants them to go and represent in their parliament. But in most cases, they speak what their bosses would like to hear from them, and that's what I think trigger all these kind of utterances. When you see people in parliament speaking, they're not addressing their constituencies, they're not addressing their parliament, but they are addressing their bosses. They are addressing either one of the biggest guy in the government or in the opposition. So that they just feel they're like they belong to a certain political grouping. So you will have to be dragged into saying something that is not of your interest, but just because you belong to a certain political group, you have to say it so that you are in alignment with their ideas.
Mm. And I like that you have actually said that, because when I try to sort of analyze what has been happening in Kenya for the last 1 year, it kind of feels like for the longest, as you've said, like these leaders, they are more aligned to maybe their bosses and what their bosses want. And I feel like maybe for the longest period of time, we lived in such a, it was, that's like the bubble we lived in. It was the first time like
Right.
people realized like, oh, by the way, this is not working for us. And who are you representing? So people start asking questions, and they're like, no, when you go to vote for that finance bill, we want you to say no. And then at the end of the day, maybe some of the members of parliament who are told to say no by their constituents, they went. And so it definitely, I think, for the leadership, especially because most of them have probably been in politics for the longest, they were sort of used to just doing what they want and saying they're representing the will of the people, but that's not necessarily what they were doing.